Hey there, this is Ill Factor from beatacademy.com, and in this video, I'm going to share some music production tips and techniques while recreating Doja Cat's Say So. So let's dive right in. So let's go ahead and listen to the finished product. All right, let's start by focusing in on the drums. So here we have a drum rack loaded with some sounds. We've got a kick, a clap, snare, and a hi-hat. Now let's just double click the empty clip slot here, and that's gonna give us a 1-bar measure to work with. Now what I wanna do is access my pencil tool when Ableton Live, and I can do that by clicking the B letter on my computer keyboard. And then that can allow me to draw in the notes. But I don't wanna draw in that many kick drums. I want it to actually draw in a quarter note value. So I'm gonna change the grid by hitting Command 2, and that's going to allow me to expand the grid and change the subdivisions. So we want a quarter note value for each of these kick drums. I'll do the same thing for the hi-hat, but I'm going to hit Command 1 because I don't want a quarter note. There you go. And what we're going to do is just take that first hi-hat and move our mouse or drag our cursor up so that the velocity value increases. And then we'll click that second hi-hat and lower that so that the velocity decreases. So we have a nice brighter accented hi-hat there and a lower velocity on that second hi-hat. And this is going to change and give more life to that hi-hat as it won't be so stiff and robotic. And now let's go ahead and place our snare clap on the 2 and the 4. So the pattern's pretty straightforward, but yet it doesn't feel or sound glued together. So a great way to do that with your drums, especially when you're programming, because when you think about it, we're getting these samples from different places, different types of drum kits all over. So I wanted to feel more humanistic. So I'm just going to layer this with a loop on top of it. And a loop, sometimes you're just playing the same beat, the same pattern. So here we have a loop playing the same pattern. Let me solo this. The same loop I use in recreating the Dua Lipa Don't Start Now. So we're going to go ahead and incorporate that right on top of the beat. You see what a difference that makes. So without the loop, a little bit stiff and not so alive. But with it, transforms everything. And it has a really nice pocket to it. So I'm not quantizing the audio loop. I want that to kind of feel as loose as possible. But what we want to do is use a little bit of EQ and the gate to just have the kick and that snare clap focused. I want to focus in on that more. So I'm going to use the gate to do that. And so I'm going to lower the threshold and then hold and bring up the hold and the release. And lower the floor just a little bit. And then what we'll do is use an EQ to just sweep away the low end and let the kick drum in my drum rack take more of the spotlight. And then I can just lower my snare drum here and raise the loop. Now if I wanted more punch, I can bring up my snare drum and just kind of balance everything out together. And then what I'll do is just give a little bit of reverb to the program drums to give it some space. And now what we can do is just group these two together. So I'm holding Shift, Command G, gonna group them all together so I can do some processing to both of them, and that'll even help glue everything a little bit more. So I'm gonna use a UAD DBX 160 plugin. This is just a great compressor just to give a lot of smack to these drums. But I'm going to go ahead and make sure that it's not doing it too much. Just a little bit of compression. There you go. This is without it. And this is with it. And then let's go ahead and use some saturator from Ableton Live. Just give it a little bit of crunch and then bring it back down. So that just helps kind of glue those two drums together and feels more vibrant and alive. So let me just take the loop off and no processing. So that's what we started with. And then let's go ahead and bring the loop back in. And so now let's go ahead and add the bass. So for the bass, I'm going to be using IK Multimedia's Moto Bass. Love this plugin. If you've seen any of my videos on my channel, you know I rock this all the time. So going to be using the 70s J bass here. And let's just go ahead and take a look at the pattern. So just a couple of things here, like these little notes here at the end, that and this little run-up note here, they make a big difference. Those are some of the nuances that you would hear when a real bass player is recording bass. So let's go ahead and do a couple things here to shape the tone. I'm going to use an EQ and just take away some of that high end. I want to kind of just have it a little bit more muffled. That's good right there. And then we'll use a compressor, but the purpose of this compressor is to sidechain so that every time the kick drum is being played, the bass will duck a little bit. And this is another way of giving a little bit more groove, adding a little rhythm to that bass, sonically as well. So let's hit the sidechain button, audio from drum rack, and then we're going to choose the kick drum from that drum rack. And just a little bit of it. Let's see how it sounds like if I just did it dramatically. It's too much, so let's just bring it back right here. That feels good. All right, next, let's go ahead and add some keys to this. So I'm going to use Excellent Audio's Addictive Keys, the Mark 1. So we're going to add some Rhodes to the rhythm section that we currently have. Let's take a listen to the chords. Now what I'm going to do is do a little bit of tone shaping. So I'm going to grab our EQ and eliminate some of that high, more just like the belly, not the high end, but just make it less belly and a lot warmer. That's good there. And then let's use a phaser plugin from Ableton Live, phaser here. And the reason why I'm using this is because I want to have this nice swirly, type of effect on it, and not so much of a flange, but the phaser, and what makes it different is it really creates a nice atmospheric space with this type of tone. So let's go ahead and mess around with this till we get something that we like. And then crank up the LFO amount. And lower the dry and wet. That's cool. And so I want to go ahead and go from the hertz to sync. So it would sync up with the project. Let's leave it at every bar. Now, you see how that adds such nice movement to it? I'm going to take it off and you'll see how. That's cool, but adding the phaser really adds this cool texture to the sound. So now let's go ahead and focus on the main spotlight of this groove, and that's that guitar riff that we hear throughout the song. Now, if you're great at playing guitar, you can go ahead and just plug in and track it yourself, and that's great. But I wanted to do something a little different here. I wanted to piece together from many different guitar riffs and chop them up to recreate this, and mostly for focusing on helping those who might not be good at guitar or just don't have the resources to actually get the exact guitar part that you might be looking for. So I'd rather do it with audio or already pre-recorded guitar riffs and loops rather than try to recreate it with a VST instrument or something like that, because you'll get a lot more of the human nuances in the recordings. So for instance, here is, let me show you the browser. Here is this loop that I have Those are not the chords being used in the Say So song, but what I can do is go ahead and focus on that last note in that progression, which is right here, and then go ahead and use that to create the first initial pattern. Even this little chuck here, I'm grabbing from another file here. So it's just kind of finding the little bits and pieces that make sense and then putting it all together to create the pattern. So I'll play the whole pattern. These are all different type of guitar parts. And then I'll walk you through on how I use some of the effects to shape the tone to have it all cohesive and feel like one regular guitar take. So there's just a little delay here on the auxiliary return track, a little delay and reverb going on. So that's why you can hear that. But some of these regions here are pitched down to match the actual harmonic arrangement that's going on. So what I want to do is first, let's go to our audio effects folder and use the chorus effect. And this is going to help kind of glue all these parts together and make them feel like they're part of the same, the same player. So let's start with listening to. So let's just dial the chorus back a little bit, maybe right around here. Cool. Now let's use a compressor and sidechaining this, just like what we did with the bass. As a matter of fact, I can go to the bass track here, hold the Option key, and drag and drop that to the guitar track as well. So it's already copying the same pattern, the same settings of the sidechain from the bass. We'll give a little bit more here. That's going to help with the initial attack of each of the riff. And then let's go ahead and use this plugin, another XLN audio plugin, the RC20 Retro Color. And I'm going to use this plugin just to create a little bit of grit to this. So let's go ahead and choose the tube. Turn the stereo on to widen this up a little more. And crank a little bit too of it. I'm going to add some digital saturation to this as well. And then just use the EQ on the bottom to warm up the tone. And then I want to go ahead and shape this a little bit more. I want to focus in on key frequencies that when referencing this over to the original song, I notice that this is, this is a bit brighter here on the higher mid. So let me maybe just take right there, like that. All right, next I'm going to use the wavetable to just create some string pads or just a lush pad to just kind of hang in the background and just glue all the other elements together. So I'm going to use the wavetable for this, but any two oscillator synth that you might have in your DAW will work just fine. So let's start by having a sawtooth as our analog wave that we're going to be using. I'm going to set both oscillators to the sawtooth. I'm going to slightly detune oscillator 2 from the first one, and then just lower the filter frequency down. And raise a little bit of the resonance. And then just a little bit of the release, just extend that and give it some unison. So we'll put the shimmer on here. And then let's go ahead and just raise the attack of the amp envelope so that it just takes a time to swell in. Okay. And then what we're going to do is just add some EQ to this, just to thin this out. And then a reverb directly after that EQ. And then I'm going to do another This time I'll use the auto filter. Same thing as probably using an EQ, but just to take some of the high end from the reverb effect now. And then go ahead and see what that sounds like with everybody else. Start from here. So then I'm going to grab the same sidechain from the bass, holding Option, put that on the strings as well. Open it up a little bit. And then we can add a nice white noise transition effect to introduce the phrase every time it comes around. Now what I want to do is sample everything so we can create that low pass filter that we hear at the very beginning of the record. And so to do this, I'm going to create an audio track. And in this audio track, I'm simply going to choose the input to resampling and then hit the record enable button. And this will sample or basically record everything that we're listening to within our project. So hit the record clip. And there you go. So now this is the track with everything that we just heard. And we can just grab an auto filter right onto this track and then go ahead and filter this out. So it's pretty cool. You can filter everybody together that way. And I'm going to experiment here. I'm going to put a phaser right after that filter. Turn up the LFO. Maybe just filter this out a little bit more and use another auto filter to take in the high pass and then layer that with everybody together. Well, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it was helpful, encouraging in any way. And as my gift to you for watching, I'd love to send you the actual session that I used in this video. You can download that, follow along, as well as a sample pack filled with construction kits, loops, one-shots, transition effects, and these are all yours absolutely free. Now, if you're already an email subscriber and you're getting my emails from Beat Academy, I'm sending you a direct link for this session. So you don't have to go and enter your email address. I'm going to send it directly to your inbox. So be on the lookout for that as well. So thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe, like the video, and I'll see you next time.